sound.
Okay. All right. So the topic, crisis topic that we chose to talk about is PTSD and sexual assault. And we all three have had experience in these areas. Abby and I have worked with PTS, mentally ill clients at a treatment center.
I've worked in a domestic violence and sexual assault crisis center and shelter.
Okay. And we started a discussion talking about PTSD specifically, and then decided to focus more on sexual assault because we know that PTSD symptoms are really high with those who experience sexual assault. And a lot of times, obviously, it is developed after a traumatic event happens, such as sexual assault. So we can start by kind of talking about our experiences with this field. I know a lot of the clients that we have that have PTSD, they have a lot of like ruminating thoughts. They're fearful of going a lot of places sometimes.
They can be easily triggered.
Yes, easily triggered as well. Hard to trust people. They have a lot of nightmares, different things like that.
And establishing a rapport with these people can take longer than someone who has experienced a traumatic event.
Yes. And I think also like they're really sensitive to people, and like understanding how they show support to them is very important. Because obviously it's a very traumatic event that not a lot of people are going to understand. So.
I have some experience working with the sexual assault side at the center I worked at, which was Middleway House. We had an on-scene advocate program, so we would send advocates to the hospital whenever a rape or sexual assault or domestic violence was reported. And we'd meet them there and just talk to them and be an advocate and let them know resources. So that kind of, while we didn't offer like in-house counseling or anything, we kind of like talk them through that and let them know that there was someone there, and hopefully that would take down some of the stress that could form right away, and hopefully take down some of the risk factors of PTSD with them. So that was kind of our side of working with that issue.
Yeah, I think a lot of the research I found, it was really important to have that advocate by your side, like right after it happened. And building up that rapport, like you said, is hard, but you have to believe the client, believe what they're saying in order for them to gain trust. Are there any specific like experiences that like we each want to talk about that like made an impact on us as far as PTSD or sexual assault or domestic violence? I don't know if there was anything that we wanted to further add with that.
I think specifically probably for me, I had a client who informed me of her nightmares. And the nightmares that she told me, they were pretty graphic. She got pretty detailed with it. And I think just listening to the impact on her and trying to put myself in her position, that definitely had an impact on me. It's like it made it seem more real with how she was explaining it. And I didn't like it, of course.
Yeah.
So I think that was something that will always stick with me. And I don't know, like I immediately tried to provide her with that empathic validation and meeting her where she was in the moment.
So that's pretty much all that you can do, I feel like, in that. So, okay, do we want to move on to issues on working with PTSD and sexual assault victims?
Sure.
Okay.
So I analyzed kind of how underserved and marginalized that PTSD and sexual assault victims can be. So about 1 in 4 females and 1 in 6 males will be sexually assaulted before the age of 18, which is incredibly high. And then rape victims are 3 times more likely than non-victims to experience PTSD. So the numbers for sexual assault are very high, and in many studies I found that there are usually some symptoms of PTSD following the event. It depends how serious it can get, depending on the resources that are made available. So it showed like women of color are usually typically underserved, undocumented, people they're afraid to reach out for help and kind of use these resources that they need to, especially I guess too with domestic violence situations. Getting help from the police it just may not be an option. And then LGBTQ, they're already marginalized, and just getting those resources is just harder for these populations.
I think too, like if I put myself in that position and I was sexually assaulted, it would be easy for me to go and find support because I have resources. But for people that already feel marginalized, for them to go and seek out those services is probably really hard to do. And that's probably why a lot of it goes underreported.
There's such a stigma already on reaching out for help. Some of these cultures just don't reach out for help. It's not a part of their culture. So they try to handle it themselves, and it's just
Yeah. And going off of what Mallory said, too often, people, there's mental health issues that are involved, and not only are they stigmatized for their mental health issues, but also for seeking that professional help isn't always, I don't know, they're not. It's almost as if we automatically bump them down to a lower status, and we don't. It's not like we want to say, oh, hey, I'm going to attend my therapy session right now. We're not open to saying, oh, I have bipolar, I have PTSD, I have these symptoms. So I think that whenever maybe we realize they kind of understand the mental illness, we can kind of better.
Definitely.
And
I think I read a couple articles too where mental health professionals coming in to help like those who have been victimized, sometimes they can't really relate to them because they're so professional that it's hard for them to really open up to that person. And I only read very few articles on that, but I just thought that was really interesting. So I think since sexual assault is becoming more common, having more training on it, and I guess maybe learning how to be authentic with that client, with that population, is something to look into as well. So, and one of the issues too that I found was the issue of law enforcement. A lot of times, law enforcement does offer victim services, so they offer crisis intervention and things like that for right after the assault. They do a lot of grief and bereavement therapy, and then cognitive behavioral approaches as well. And a lot of times, it's like I said, it's hard to go report your case unless you have that advocate right by your side. So that's why we are so important in these cases. Also, a lot of the research talked about developing more of a team approach. So obviously including medical professionals and getting a medical evaluation, connecting them with a rape crisis center is important, or a domestic shelter, instead of just focusing on just one avenue.
It's something we try to do in Middle Way as well. Is create a team. We had a whole department for legal advocacy to kind of explain that process to them. We have people that would go to a courtroom and sit with people going through these cases and explain things to them, really help them through that. And it's difficult with law enforcement too, because actually law enforcement is one of the top careers where domestic violence is present. So getting help, it may just not be an option. There's such a stigma there too, just going to law enforcement and the power that's at play, and because a lot of this sexual assault type stuff is power and control. So it's definitely.
And I mean, if you are a victim and you did drugs or alcohol while you were victimized, I know a lot of times the law enforcement has trouble really believing your story or not giving you enough credit for it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard in that way too.
And that's often where advocates like social workers come into play, and we provide crisis intervention support and emotional support, and just work on their behalf. And I think that helps them open up more and develop that trust. Whereas that trust wouldn't be developed otherwise.
Make sure this is still on because it's not lit up. Okay. Yep, we're still lit.
Okay.
There's something else I was going to add tonight too.
important.
Okay.
And working with PTSD victims, you want to make sure follow-up care also is important because this will aid the recovery process. And then, immediate services like, say, the individual needs food or water, get them in connection with those services right away if need be. And, answering questions or providing emotional support to victims throughout the treatment process is important.
And I think a lot of it is based around crisis intervention because you have to meet those needs.
Yeah.
And it really is a crisis.
And maybe reassuring the client that you're there to help meet their needs, I think is important as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I remember what I was going to add now. A lot of times whenever you, I feel like whenever you have clients that have been sexually assaulted and dealing with the court system, or like having delays on your case, or just the overall trial in general can really re-victimize the client, and they have to relive it like all over again.
Yes.
And I found a lot of research on that, and I thought that it was really interesting. So I just thought that I would add that in there as well.
Yeah. That's actually something they've started to change with children that have undergone like really abusive situations. Like they had a place called Susie's Place in Binghamton. I know they have a child advocacy center down here as well, where there's everybody who's on the team, the law enforcement, like the caseworker, anybody who needs to hear this story, is in the room, and it's secret, like behind the scenes room. They can see the child can't see them, and then the child only has to tell the story one time because they found just how like it's hard to like go through that over and over again, and so and that's children, which is obviously very important, but even for adults, teenagers going through these situations, telling that over and over again can just be so stressful and causes this PTSD type of thing, especially when they're not believed as well. And just it's very important to try to minimize the number of times they have to go through that situation.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, and for children, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a great tool that they've come up with to use for them.
That's being so young, they don't have all those tools in their toolbox to cope with
Right.
the trauma
Right.
efficiently.
And maybe even these adults, that they could have that like a similar trauma in their past, and they may have not developed the tools either to kind of deal with that. So going through this, like the cognitive levels that it is, also very important. I think that kind of moves us into what we want to cover with the biopsychosocial next.
Yep.
So biologically, when going through this PTSD, they have nightmares, they have the memories, like those are very traumatic, just the flashbacks, and then usually trying to avoid any thoughts or feelings about the situation, even avoiding going out in public where it may have happened, or just avoiding places that remind them of that type of thing. They have difficulty sleeping, of course, with the flashbacks and the nightmares, difficulty concentrating, kind of irritable, jumpy. So those sort of things are going on biologically, and that's just a lot to understand what's happening, especially when all the trauma is there, and then you don't really know what's going on. That's definitely a lot.
Yes, and even if they have other medical issues going on, like maybe they're diabetic or something, like that type of biological stuff is also stressful on top of the psychiatric.
For sure.
Okay, and then I was going to add a little bit about like the psychological aspect of it. Too often, as we mentioned earlier, people are belittled or stigmatized if they receive professional help for emotional or psychological problems, and these traumatic events cause extreme psychological stress and can interfere with their daily living and their ability to interact effectively with others, maybe distress tolerance, they may have emotional dysregulation. And then, so this is just a big obstacle in helping these people overcome their
Having all those things going on, and then like even wanting to find treatment, like if you don't know
Yeah.
what's happening, and you're trying to avoid all these things of
Yeah.
finding, like, getting the courage to go, like, tell someone and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of times it can get really severe, like it can be a severe case, especially if they don't have that social support or necessary therapy that's needed for the symptoms they're experiencing. So a lot of research suggested CBT is very common in working with PTSD patients, and also interpersonal therapy is good for them as well. I also read a little bit about psychodynamic theory and maybe analyzing the defense mechanisms that they developed over time due to the trauma that can cause like suppression. What's another one? Repression. And the goal for the therapist would be to help them to achieve what's the word I'm looking for? Cathartic release. That break of that psychological energy that's been built up for so long due to the trauma. So
Yeah, there's probably a lot built up emotion after that, I would imagine. And like you said, having people to go to, having that social support is really important. As far as like a social assessment, it's hard to find research on like sitting someone down and doing a social assessment, because a lot of times they do the crisis intervention stuff first, but you can always go back and do a social assessment.
sure.
But I found, there was one article I found that talked about using more of an ecological approach in which you assess your environment, obviously. And looking at a lot of demographic characteristics such as like your race, your marital status, the abuse history, your sexual behavior, substance use, general interpersonal problems. I don't know if you mentioned interpersonal earlier. And so just kind of looking at those things and getting a better picture of the client and their social environment is important too. And home life and all of that. And one thing I found interesting was that, and I don't know if you guys came across this in any of your research, but there's either victims either have, when they go to tell someone, they either have like a positive reaction or a negative reaction. And more often than not, if they go to tell a family or a friend, they get a negative reaction. Because they're like, oh my gosh.
I did come across that.
Yeah. So, and just kind of, and I'll touch on this later whenever I talk about formal and informal help systems, but, and I guess I can wait till I get there. But that's just really important for them, is to have a positive, impact, and they don't always get that.
We try to, like, whenever we would go into schools and talk to middle and high school students, we would always say, like, the first couple things you say to someone would ever tell you this is like, I believe you.
Yes, yeah.
Like, that sort of thing. And that's just, like, so important that they have that initial, like, someone they can trust and that voice and ready to.
And that validation,
Yes,
reassurance.
And so often, too, like, we think of sexual assault and rape, like, whenever we would ask kids this, like, what do you think when you think of a rapist? And you're like, the guy in the minivan, like, or the white, like, things, and it's more often than not someone that the person knows, and like a family member or a friend, a family friend, even with friends, like, I think that we tell them the statistics, you're more likely to get assaulted by the person who walks you home at night than by a stranger on the street. So it's hard to tell friends if that, like, the person who assaulted you is friends with your friends, or is a family member. So, like, getting that negative thing and, like, disbelief, that's why it's really common probably, is because people don't want to think that the people around them can be that bad, and so that's
really sad.
It actually happens very commonly, and I think that's where relationships are broken, and that's where we come in and we play our role of we're here, we're not gonna break away.
for sure.
So,
Okay. So do you think we covered the biopsychosocial assessment pretty well?
I think so.
I think so. Okay. So we can move on to the next part, addressing cultural beliefs. And I think we have a lot of info on that.
Yep, that was me. I basically, the main point that I addressed, we kind of already talked about it. People seeking professional help isn't a big thing, and in our culture, anyways, I recognize that that's something that people don't always approve of, I guess you could say. And I think that I've noticed that it affects the family sometimes more than it affects the patient. I don't want to say affects more, but maybe I can see the effect that it has on the family.
Yeah.
And the family not wanting that stigma attached to it.
Right.
And then I was going to add also that some common words that our culture has associated with people who are seeking mental health treatment. They might assume that this person is insecure, awkward, or extremely unstable. So those are just some of the stigma words that our culture has associated with these people. So what I found in the research that I thought was really interesting, if people recognize more the biological aspects of mental illness, they're more likely to not stigmatize them. So to assist in the stigma reduction process, research suggests the addition of treatability information to biological models would be necessary. So instead of saying, oh, this person has maladaptive behaviors or thought patterns, we could say, oh, maybe this runs in the family, it's due to genetics. And that research has suggested it lessens the stigma.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I found as far as cultural beliefs.
I think too, like, if I had to work with sexual assault victims, like, and I went home and I told my family that, like, it would be really hard for them to accept, just because of the rural area that we're a part of.
Yes.
Like, why would you want to get into that type of work? Or why would you even want to do that and help those type of people? Because around here, everything is kind of swept under the rug, or or it's all happening.
That was actually an exact experience I had. Like once I got my practicum at Middle Way, I went back and was talking to my friends and some of their parents, and I said what I was going to be doing. And they're like, "Oh, why would you want to do that?" And I was like, "Well, it's needed, and like I like to help people, and like I don't want to just ignore it. Like it's not a problem, but that's what we tend to do." And it's kind of, oh, well, does it happen to me? It doesn't happen to anyone I know, which is just not the case.
And you probably had to put those thoughts aside when you were with the clients, because obviously you can't show that in front of them.
Yeah, and it was very difficult to even, like, I mostly work with students, but we had students step out, and it's like, it's hard to even, like, it's a stigma even that I have, like, oh, like, bad families, like, people talk about here, and, like, that sort of thing, and it's just like, no, this happens a lot, this happens in any kind of family,
You'd be surprised.
any kind of person, we just don't talk about it.
And I think there's so much stress, in small areas like this, like, word gets around, there's a lot of gossip, and I feel like that just enlarges the problem. It only makes it bigger, and I think that itself causes a lot of stress in the family and the person who is in crisis or has mental health issues. So
okay. So discussing like informal help systems and support systems. Obviously we know what informal and formal is, and I kind of touched earlier on how friends and family, you kind of have more of a negative reaction whenever you disclose. And I think the victims are like obviously most worried about how are people going to respond to me whenever I disclose this type of information. And a lot of times, informal support systems know how to better deal with and handle these kinds of situations. So again, I think that's why it's so important that they have a social worker or an advocate to tell their story too. And I think one of the statistics that I found, 65 to 92% of assault survivors disclose to at least one person, which is pretty big. And on an average, they tell about 3 people. So I thought that was interesting. And then also with having a negative social reaction, that is when people most often blame the victim. Oh, it was your fault. Or they doubt them. And they're like, no, like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that this happened. Or maybe like they're focusing on their own feelings instead of the victim's. Like, no, no, don't tell anyone, kind of what we talked about, because it'll hurt my reputation more than your reputation.
Yeah.
And then I think, Abigail, you had kind of touched on maladaptive and adaptive behaviors or ways of coping. And a lot of times, if the traumatic event is really, really severe and the PTSD is high, they can develop more maladaptive forms of coping, like drinking, substance use.
That's already present before.
Exactly. Puts them at a greater risk.
Yeah.
We talked about risks, low risks, and high risks.
And
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And if you had someone with mental health symptoms such as depression or anxiety on top of having PTSD symptoms from a sexual assault, like it can interfere highly with their ability to cope independently and their ability to self-care independently. And that support it's just more likely that they'll need that additional support.
And I think that sexual assault victims do have a high rate of depression.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's something that's in as well. What else? Just kind of closing. Again, it's important to provide for those support systems to provide empowerment, believe their story, and advocate for them in the best way we can. And again, having that interactive team approach with the informal help systems. So having medical care, counseling, law enforcement, and kind of trying to get everybody on the same page. I know it's not always easy, and that's probably the biggest challenge with this population is getting all of those systems on the same page. But I think that's where a lot of the research that I found is kind of where it went.
Yeah, kind of more towards the team approach. Proved to be more effective with this population. Because if you think about it, I mean, it gets in touch with so many different needs. If somebody was sexually assaulted, obviously there's what do you call it? Not the victim, but the perpetrator. Yeah, the perpetrator. So who's going to get involved? Law enforcement's going to get involved.
Right, exactly.
So it's just because that's illegal. It's a crime.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it sounds silly, but there's just there's a need for those types of services, and they're going to get involved regardless.
Definitely.
So I think connecting with them in an effective way is necessary.
So what types of services did you connect them to or work to them?
Well, so the services we offered, I talked about the on-scene advocate program, which I think was a great kickstart to the team approach that you found so much research on. We're then connected immediately with the hospital. The hospital knows to call us, and the hospital is responsible for calling us and saying this, and they ask the survivor that's in there, would you want this, and everything, and so the survivor has to even say yes before we're called as well.
They have to give their consent.
So asking permission is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, because we want them to be in control. So much with sexual assault and domestic violence, their power and control has been completely taken from their lives. Giving them that back can be a lot of peace of mind. Even whenever we go there, we ask them if they want to talk, if they want us there, if they want us to leave. We kind of let them know if at any point they don't want us to be there, we do not have to be there. We are at their disposal basically. Do you want us to make any calls for you? We just sit with them and get food or drinks that are in the hospital. We don't have to speak at all. We are just there to be a support for them. And then we let them know of the services we can offer them afterwards if they're interested in hearing that, which are we give them complete control in that situation as well. So I think that's really huge with starting out that we have that. We have the legal advocacy program I talked about that connects with the law enforcement side type, and I think we may talk to them less when it comes to that. We do have officers that come to our trainings and talk about the police side of it, which is very helpful. For volunteers to know. And it's always very interesting because law enforcement does have such a different attitude about it, and that's like obvious. Like whenever we're sitting through trainings, and um, you can just tell those sorts of things. So that stigma is definitely present. Um, and then we have like a crisis line, which we also have one of those here in Jasper. So that operates all year, every day. Um, and I think that's good for people as well to just kind of see, like, call and like talk to someone. We talked about how like they can have negative reactions from family members and friends. So like talking to someone who's going to be supportive right away, like is like a great service for them to have. And they can remain completely anonymous. We told all the kids that are in their schools that too, like you can call us. We don't ask your age. We don't ask your name. So like with like mandatory reporting, that sort of thing too. Because we like to give the kids control too, to like they know their situation, like they know if they're ready to tell us something like that. That would like we would have to
Make them more comfortable.
Yeah.
To tell their story.
Yeah. So just having services like that available, which they often aren't. Like we don't have a shelter in Lewis County that I'm aware of, and
I don't think we do.
and it's really a need, I would think, even in this county, that people may not like to think about.
Yeah.
And you know, people don't always want to travel, or they don't have the means to travel, and or they might have children here or obligations that they have to take care of here, and you know, that's just not always easy. They don't have the vehicle to get there.
Yeah, because we always stressed if we got calls outside of the certain counties we served, we really didn't want them to relocate because they have different support systems where they're at. So like moving them, unless it's for their moving is for their safety, is really like something we didn't want to happen because they could have family somewhere that can help with the kids that they might have. So like those sorts of things too. Something else we wrote down earlier that I wanted to talk about, the locations of these services. I know we talked about, because we do serve Martin County with Middle Way House, that the Middle Way House office is like right in the middle of town. And in a very small town like county, like Martin County, you know everyone. So if you see someone pull up and walk in there, the whole town's going to know that you went and sought services for domestic violence and sexual assault. Yeah. So seeking those kind of services, especially when sexual assault has such a stigma that it does, like that, the sexual assault part, it's just so hard to get over. You know, with PTSD as well, like getting these services for the mental health, just having places where people can get, anonymous. Where that's what we like about the crisis line. It's great that Lewis County has that for keeping that private and everything and getting those resources. But and then mentioned earlier, like undocumented and LGBTQ and women of color, like those services where it can be private and they can call and get reference, like or like resources, like knowledge about resources is helpful as well.
And that's how the option.
Yeah.
And that's what we need in that moment. Is those resources to connect to and to have something to fall back on.
I was going to touch up on your point of saying that, you know, that crisis hotline is always there to provide support. And, you know, sometimes people just need to simply be heard and to listen. And sometimes maybe people, you know, they don't want anyone to talk. They just want them to shut their mouths and let them vent and let them do their thing. And I think that, you know, I think research has shown that, you know, when people don't feel ignored, the less likely they're to resort to maladaptive behaviors. So I just thought that was important, and I think you made a really good point. So
the other struggle that I kind of found with researching this is people may just not know about these. Like if it is an undocumented person, you don't know how long they've been in this community. So knowing about these resources and then potential language barriers to finding these sort of things. So there's definitely a need for people with diversity working in these offices. I know we were always looking to have people of other languages or who can speak multiple languages come in.
And
and
that
have
can
these
help.
things.
Yeah, and that can help. People of color or different ethnicities in within this area. It can definitely help them, provide a level of comfort
Yeah.
to where they feel more welcome and they feel more okay. I'm okay. I
Yeah.
feel safe here. It provides somebody with that safety.
We didn't talk about this very much, but there's a stigma with men reporting sexual assault as well, like not being able to talk about that. And it was actually like recent that Middle Way House had to because of their federal funding had to start providing shelter and spaces for men, and I don't believe any of those had ever been used. But that's just such a stigma as well. And the other practicum student with me was male, and he did not get to do any OSA calls because we asked them, do you prefer to talk to a male or a female? And everyone said female. So he started, I think, a men's support group for sexual assault during his year here. Yeah, so talking about that and getting that discussed as well, because even PTSD, we talked about a little bit whenever we were picking the topic with veterans and that sort of thing, like the masculine stigma on discussing PTSD in any of its forms is just hard for
It was
them to
interesting
talk about.
too, like when I did my research, like I found a lot of sexual assault cases in the military. People in the military being sexually assaulted, which was just like, because I know we had talking about veterans as well. So all this military stuff popped up, but it was sexual assault cases that were happening in the military versus, so it was just, it was really interesting. And I think it's becoming more common, unfortunately, but I think
At least becoming more discussed, and it was probably always happening, and the fact that we can start talking about it, I think is a good thing.
Yeah. And I think it helps. One thing I've noticed with like crisis, mental health centers or just crisis intervention strategies that a lot of treatment providers use is like community education and raising that awareness and going to high schools and talking about it, what it means, how to avoid, how to know the difference between when someone is telling you that they really like you or they just want you, and just identifying those things and developing that, I guess, common street sense. Is that what I'm looking for? Just that.
Our program was called Building Healthier Relationships, and that was like a real focus on like how to talk to people about what you're feeling, like if you like someone, if you want to be sexually involved with someone, like those sorts of things, like because we don't speak about those things. Sex education is very limited in schools, and people don't have this information. And the fact that we're starting to talk about those things, and then also we're starting to talk about mental illness and on a larger scale in our society. So hopefully that discussion will keep rolling and like lessen these stigmas, so people can reach out and know where to go and get help whenever things like this happen. And then hopefully lessen the cases of it happening in general.
And I know they do have like training programs as well, or like defense classes for younger women, like high school students. If anything were to ever happen, what would you do? So it's just kind of nice.
We talk about that with Middle Way. We don't like to like say that that's a thing, because it does put like blame on the victim, and if they don't fight back, because some of the research we find, like we teach like in schools, I was always taught like it's fight or flight, like you're either gonna fight back or you're gonna run. And we don't talk about it, but there's a third one, and it's freeze, and you just freeze up, and it's like a thing in your brain, you just deer in headlights, and you can't move, and then they feel so much guilt afterwards that they didn't do something, but they didn't even know that they were having like a psychological response to what was happening. And that can like create so much stress too. Is like, if I tell someone, they're gonna be like, well, did you fight back? Like, did you do something? And it's like, well, no, I didn't know what to do. So like,
and that's good education. To educate people as well on the freeze.
To know that could happen, because I know like young girls are like, I'm going to be ready. Like, I would definitely fight back, but like, you're in that moment, you don't know how you're gonna react. It's definitely just can be so different in any situation.
And again, like I know you talked about culture earlier, but just the culture of sexual assault and like how it's evolved. changed all of us, and
Yeah.
it's just it's amazing.
It'll be interesting to see future research and future developments on
Yeah.
all the pushes to educate and provide these resources.
I think maybe like if any of us were to live or provide services in a big city or a lot bigger than this Jasper, Indiana, I think maybe we could compare the differences, in how treatment is provided and how their needs are being met.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
the services are. So,
Yeah. Okay. I think we're good. Do we have anything else that we want to add? Like any other added research?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think
All
we're
right.
done.
Okay.